Hey guys, let there be light. Hey guys, Professor Bill, Comic Book University. Okay, we're going to start. Let's talk about X-Men issue number 12. This is a travesty that, you know how in the back, when they always have the things in red, yet they don't have this one in red. It's just regular old black right up there in the lower middle. Well, it's towards the lower. Anyway, that is a damn travesty. Next week is not only is going to be Juggernaut issue 1, but Ten of Swords creation number 1 also. Now, mind you, this is not a full Dawn of X thing. It's not a Dawn of X live interactive review. It's just for X-Men 12 because there was a lot to unpack here. If there was also stuff in the other books, it's cool, but I'm not here to do spoilers for those. Those will have their own review. I already have the Hellions up, and I'm going to have. I didn't notice the other book, Excalibur number 12 there, but this one here, which should finish everything up, the giant size X-Men Storm. We'll see. We shall see. There's still another giant size X-Men book to come. It's just supposed to be a refresher. They're going to honor Dave Cockrum by replacing all of his art. Great way to honor people, right? Anyway, so let me close this window here and let's get talking about this book, man. What is this book? Holy crap. So now as then, in the early days of Krakoa Nation, it merged with a mysterious island of beasts, a piece of Krakoa's lost other half, Arako. The other inhabitants of this fragment was a summoner, invulnerable and able to call forth monsters, demons and greater demons and stuff like that, who has now made his home on Krakoa. So we're going to start off with something that, well, we're going to start off with something very important. That is, Jonathan Hickman is the writer, Laniel Francis Yu is the artist, Sunny Rowe on color art, VC's Clayton Cowles doing the letters, designed by Tom Mueller. Laniel Francis Yu and Sunny Rowe did the cover art. Jay Bowen is in charge of production, and the head of X is still. I mean, it's silly to put head of X when you're actually writing the book, but whatever. I guess it means like I'm my own editor. Anyway, well, at least the own consultant. And this issue 12, is called Amenth. The original X-Men was created by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. So Amenth, that's going to be somewhat important as we move forward. Yes. So we start off with a budding friendship, even if it's only one-sided, or at least it seems that way. So we have Rockslide and the Summoner playing their thing. Mind you, the Summoner is only a level 3 Summoner. I mean, I'm saying there's supposed to be 3. Right now there's currently 2. Where's that other level 3 Summoner? That's going to be interesting. But, you know, I'm level 4. So, I mean, anyway, I did do that right? Yes, I did. I was going to say, is that level 6? Because I'm super like that. Anyway, this is actually a really cool friendship and a bit of a reveal for what Landslide actually is. So Landslide is actually an energy being within the chunky rocks of who he is. And the X-Men who are with him are like, oh, I think that's, who is it? Is that Annalie and Blink? That's not Blink, is it? Who the hell is that? Go back, fool. Loa, duh. Annalie and Loa. So they're both hanging out, and they're just like, oh, so that's how come he always reforms. Like, no matter how far you throw apart, he always reforms back at the center. So now we don't know how that necessarily makes it a weakness, but it is an exploit. Case in point, someone who has the ability to manipulate energy, or somebody who could replicate that energy, Monica Rambeau, perhaps she could be like, I'm going to make you form over here because I'm going to replicate that same energy, and I'm going to do it brighter. I'm going to do it louder. I'm just saying, this is the kind of stuff that I think about when I see somebody doing something completely weird. Like that's actually kind of wicked, right? Plus, actually, as John Wright is, hey, Raven, I haven't seen you in half near forever. What's going on, brother? Just as John Wright is pointing out, the fact that I'm okay with the fact that Landslide is actually an energy manipulator. Think about that. An energy manipulator. Can he only do it with one energy type? Can he do it with multiple energy types? Can he learn that? I mean, he's still very young, right? And we haven't really seen him too much in action, but his bravery speaks volumes. See, a lot of us might look at, this and be like, oh, dude, this is a summoner level 3. Like, oh my God, what are you doing? This guy's invulnerable. Like, he could kill you. He could literally find a way to kill you and send you to demon spawn land forever. Yeah, but this isn't necessarily bravado on the part of Landslide. He's been there. He's done that. As young as he is, remember, he walked straight up to Gladiator Hulk, World Breaker Hulk. He wasn't actually at World Breaker level, but in that storyline, he walked right up to him. He had zero fear. He didn't win, but he also didn't necessarily get hurt too much, right? Just annoyed. So that was actually really cool. Something else that we notice is that the weakness for the summoner, as Landslide is able to point out, is the summoner's eyes. He's invulnerable everywhere except for his eyes. Now, does that mean that they're soft like ours are? Or does it mean that they're just softer, they're weaker? You know what I'm saying? Like, could Aunt May with an ice pick like kill the freaking summoner? Or would it be more like a thing where it's like, okay, there's no way to penetrate your skin, but somebody with the strength of, say, a Luke Cage would be able to penetrate your eyes with an ice pick made out of adamantium. I'm saying, so could Wolverine do it? That could be interesting. That could be very interesting. Love finding these things out. Also, the Luke Cage thing. He's invulnerable, so I guess that would mean, unlike the original aspect of Luke Cage, where he was only his skin was unbreakable, it seems as though everything is unbreakable for the summoner, which would explain his fearlessness, including in the face of Apocalypse, his grandfather, showing up. The scene where he's like, "Hey, grandfather, would you like to play a game?" This scene down here, man. And I've got to do it in the X-Men '92 voice. I'm gonna completely mess it up, but I'm gonna try. Would you care to join in? Do I look like a player of games? Yes, very much so. I couldn't even read that without my voice fluctuating like that. You know, saying like the summoner's response, yes, very much so. Because that's just what it felt like to me. If you didn't care about the summoner before, you suddenly gave a rat's ass when you noticed that. When he's like, Granddad, I got you pegged. Like, I've got a mold of you. They're sitting here recreating mutants all the time. I could recreate you because I know you inside and out. Damn it, that was freaking amazing. He got him on that one, man. So the other X-Men are dispersed. I thought, it's funny because in the previous issue, the game can't end until the game is over. So what exactly constitutes the game being over? Because suddenly the game did end. I'm saying Rockslide in his full height was able to leave instead of that short little version, which odd. Anyway, I guess another one of Apocalypse's monikers can be the ender of games. I am as far beyond sorry as Monopoly is beyond you. Or no, actually, it'd be the other way. I'm as far beyond Monopoly as sorry is to you. That'd be great. So anyway, is it time, grandfather? It's like, yes. I built the external site, the external gate, constructed it on the bones. I'm still not used to reading with glasses on. I can't focus my eyes. I have to put this where it needs to be so it can focus in like that. That's freaking weird. Anyway, I've built the external gate, constructed on the bones of immortal mutants, just as planned, just as was required. So Summoner says, so you've made a door home, and the way to Akaro is open. Now we simply have to walk through. But I sense hesitation, grandfather. Why? I want to stop there for a moment. I want to go back and think about who Apocalypse actually is, because this could be extremely important. All right. This is the grandson of Apocalypse. And we've seen children far, far, far younger and much more removed. Case in point, go and look at the Dracula versus Apocalypse books, or was it Apocalypse versus Dracula, whichever it was. I think there were 4 issues. I did a spotlight on story for that, and in the very first issue, you get to see a bunch of the you get to see the Dark Riders for the most part all throughout, but you get to see the grandsires of Apocalypse. And he's always had that thing where it's like the darker skinned ones I don't like. So if you ever wake me up because you need me for something, I will show up. But you all sit around this table and you wait because one of you I'm going to murder, the one that I find the weakest. And sometimes that weakness is the one who looks a little bit gray skinned. Now, I know right away, one, that is racist. That's kind of also what eugenics is all about. It doesn't take race into consideration. It looks towards the evolution of things. And according to Apocalypse's view on eugenics and genetics, the idea is that the grayer skinned ones haven't evolved as much as I want them to. Now, it seems hypocritical because he himself is gray skinned. I want to also take into the account that practitioners of eugenics are often considered racist. Case in point, the brown-eyed, not as white-skinned, not nearly as blonde-haired Adolf Hitler, right? He liked the idea of a super race of people, beings, humans, the master race of which he himself was not actually one of them. The way that the previous creators and thought processors of the Marvel Comics really thought about the way that the character was supposed to be portrayed all throughout his comic book history. So the idea that right away, the Summoner, when he sees Apocalypse, and he's like, "Oh, you're finished, so we could go back," but I see you hesitating. In my mind, in my own headcanon, I look at this as him stopping for a moment and saying, "Whoa, you're not afraid, are you?" Because that would have been something where he might say, "Well, then you've got to be culled. You're not worthy." Maybe I'm reading into that too much. I'm okay with reading into that too much. But instead, it's reversed. It's the idea that, oh no, I'm not afraid. In fact, I'm curious, are you or yours afraid? Because you came through that gate. You're the only one who came through that gate, and you came here, and you're one of the most powerful ones, so I need to know. If I'm going back to save these people, it's one thing to get my revenge, because he wants his revenge. But if I'm going to go back and try and save the Arakoans, I want to make sure they're actually worth being saved. Were they worthy? So that was cool. I dug on that big time. So then we go into, and this is why this should be one of those red letter ones. Either way, if you guys aren't collecting this issue, you're wrong. That's why I don't have a problem with doing a spoiler issue for this, because, dude, right there, the history of Arakoa, there's so much in this book. It's pure insanity. But this is also a trope. I have been talking a lot about tropes lately. This is a trope, of Hickman. But it's an amazing trope. And it's kind of one of those Hickman only tropes, because I haven't seen this consistently done with anybody else. Story will be told, action will be given, all sorts of different things will happen in a comic book line by Hickman. And it's hard to, even though I just got finished doing it, it seems a little hypocritical, but it's hard to look at something that Hickman does and compare it to what other people have done as far as a line being drawn, because Hickman has his own world. I've talked about this before in live spoiler reviews. Hickman has his own universe. It's almost like you could take the Marvel universe as a whole and all the different, the 1610 and all these different universes that have been made, and you could look to Hickman and only take his works in the Marvel universe and possibly some outside of the Marvel universe. You could see those and see them as a story of their own. Oh, it perfectly bleeds into other stories, and sometimes it doesn't. Let's be realistic. Stop and think for a moment. How many characters that Hickman has created have actually gone on to be mainstream? How many? Because the answer is not a lot. I mean, he created Thane, the son of uh, um, um, Infinity Go Thanos. You know what I'm saying? He created the son of Thanos. How often is he used? Not very often, because for the most part, nobody cares. He did create the Black Water. I feel like those guys have been used more than anybody else. I mean, I could be wrong, but for the most part, mm, he's not really. Um, he's not really created too many characters that have been used by other people. Most of the time, his characters are very Hickman only. And anybody else looks at the character and is like, yeah, I'm not messing with that because one, I might screw it up. Two, I really don't care about the character. They're not interesting to me. When Hickman creates characters, they're usually characters that are, their powers aren't really explained, or they're just generic copies of other characters. It's like, oh, this is Hyperion from another world, saying from another universe. Vanilla, saying, or here's a character that I made that's the powers are undefined. You come at this character without knowing the specific weaknesses or how to come about this character, you're going to get wasted immediately. I'm saying? He'll wipe out the entire, you'll have a book called The Avengers World. It'll end in the first issue. You know what I'm saying? Or it could, if Captain America didn't be allowed to go because he wasn't strong enough. America's super soldier? You bastard. The idea is that he hasn't really created too many characters that other people are willing to use for whatever reason, because they're very undefined. Hopefully we get a little bit more than that with the Summoner, but not enough that other people can use them and screw them up. You get what I'm saying? So we get the history of Arako and the fallen world of Amenth. So we're going to get into Amenth. So we start off with the Twilight Sword. It's funny how we look at Hickman. We look at a lot of the stuff that he does. I know there's some people who are really excited over the Ten of Swords stuff coming up. And yes, I'm going to say that it is Ten of Swords. I kept on calling it X of Swords because I didn't know any better. But now I see it here and it says X of Swords. X of Swords. That's X of Swords right there. Now, with it being X, that first letter there, X of Swords, you do know that, just in case anybody's going to, argue this point, yeah, but it still stands for 10. Not in this case. Not in this case. Because it's powers of 10, or excuse me, what was it? House of X, powers of 10. That's the way it was always put. All right? That's why I've always said the Hoxpox, sure, but it's House of X, but powers of 10. So why is this X of Swords, not Ten of Swords? Because that's the letter X. And while it's not shown as often, when the alphabet was revealed for Krakoan, filled in a couple of blanks that I couldn't find because the letters never came up, or the sounds specifically never came up linguistically. You also have to look at the idea that the numeric system was given. So there was a full alphanumeric system for this. This could be a full font at this point. So they do have a number for 0 and a number for 1, and it would obviously be reversed because it's just transliteration for the most part. But they have a symbol for 1, they have a symbol for 0. So the idea that they put X of Swords as opposed to 1-0 of Swords, I'm going to go with the idea that it now says specifically X of Swords. Chaos in Comics, what's up? I have a point, but it's a mistake. Head of X. So we have the Twilight Sword. Now, I don't know how. First off, who is this who actually got the Twilight Sword? Because I don't remember them actually saying it was Amenth. But either way, we have the Twilight Sword that came about, and the person came along. And first off, I've mentioned this before. I'm going to mention it again. The idea that Apocalypse is running around with twin Kopeshes as his weapons is just so ridiculously or so ridiculously overpowered. It's ridiculous. I love it, and I even kind of love it. So, boom, the sadness that he feels, all this stuff. But the Twilight Sword, we've seen the Twilight Sword being used several times in the Marvel Comics. A lot of the times I've had created by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby, but Walter Simonson was the first person who really put the Twilight Sword to use in a major, major, major way. Kopesh's, yeah, Lewis Scott has the correct written. The first time I ever heard of Kopesh's was actually in Dungeons and Dragons Advanced Second Edition, because they had it there, and it's like, that's a cool looking sword. That's Egyptian, sick. I'm going to use those. They did pretty good damage too, I'm saying. So the speed factor was really slow on them, but anyway. So I'm old. I played old school Dungeons and Dragons. So anyway, I played before Advanced Second Edition too. So later on, around where Thor was turned into Throg, he was turned into a frog. The Twilight Sword was actually used as a power source around that time also. It's been used as a power source later. I didn't read too much of the Heroes Reborn and all that stuff, but I went and looked it up, and it turns out in the very first issue of the Heroes Reborn Avengers, that would be volume 3. I went and looked it up. Turns out it was also used as a power source there as well. Oh, well, that's interesting. So the level of power in this is sick, especially when you consider what the Twilight Sword represented in the Thor Ragnarok movie. Once that sword was put into Asgard, the soil of Asgard, it split it, not in two, like in a billion, like it destroyed Asgard. It's all over the place right now. You can find little pieces of Asgard, and when Thor goes back home, if somebody finds one of those pieces of Asgard and brings it to him, it's, instead of kryptonite, it's Asgardianite. I'm joking, that didn't actually happen, but I mean, you could see how that would be funny, right? So anyway, I would love if they did a joke like that in Thor: Love and Thunder. It's still Taika Waititi, so he could make that reference and everybody would get it, I think. Anyway, so dips it in, and Akora, right? Yeah, Akara. I'm gonna point this out right now because I don't want to forget this stuff. When you think about Arako, the word Arako, so Arako and Krakoa are the two halves of the original Akara. Akara is an anagram of Akaro, or excuse me, is Akora. Akara is Akaro backwards, and Krakoa is an anagram of them both. So you mix up the letters, and then you get Krakoa. So I look at this Amenth guy, and I think to myself, Amenth. So I look it up, and there's only 2 words that when you use all of the letters together, if you were to add an extra E in there, you get methane, which is interesting. But when you do an anagram of Amenth, you get hetman, which is a Cossack headman or general, somebody who's in charge for the Cossack or Russian armies. Very interesting. It can also be anthem, or which means a song of devotion or loyalty, like as to a school, or like the national anthem, right? If you take out one of the letters, the M, or the M specifically, you get Thane, which is also a creation of my man Hickman. So I'm saying, so the first sword that we'd seen, that I remember seeing, that before we knew the Ten of Swords thing was coming up, was Twilight. The Twilight Sword, the Twilight Sword. There's also the Cerebro Sword. There's also all these freaky swords that we've been seeing and possibly not really paying attention to, right? A little bit. I do remember I made mention really quick, hey, he just made into a sword. 10 of Swords is coming up. Oh my God. So X of Swords now. I'm just going to keep on messing with you guys because it's freaking hysterical. Anyway, we get to see that he's the one who led the armies. Now, if you go back to one of the other issues that's just as important as this book is Powers of 10, issue number 4. Powers of 10, issue 4 is just as important. It's probably it should probably be considered the sister companion to this book, because that's where we got the first appearance and mentions of most of the characters in here. Most of the story was actually in here also. Some of the first appearance of like the Horsemen and so on and so forth was actually in what the heck was that called? Marvel Comics issue number 1000. There's short little parts there with, hey, some stuff thrown in, first appearances. I remember I got into I don't know about an argument with Chillmonger. We get into some arguments, but no, for the most part, this was just a thing where it's like, I haven't seen anything special about Marvel Comics number 1000 to this very day. But there've been lots of first appearances in that issue. So if you can go back and get that, there could, no promise that there will, but there could be a time when it's actually really valuable, because the first appearance, sometimes just first appearance in shadows, but the whole, oh, it's what do you call it? First cameo appearance. The first time that Apocalypse appeared was in the shadows. I can't help but to look at that as being very foreshadowing or very time honoring on the part of Hickman. The first appearance in X Factor issue number 4, if I'm remembering correctly, of Apocalypse was actually in the shadows. So, so the first appearance of the original, the first Horseman, boom, back there. And of course, we already knew from Powers of X issue number 4 that the wife and one of the first Horsemen of Apocalypse was actually my girl here, Genesis. Now, when Apocalypse and the Horsemen went to go and seal the rift to get rid of the daemons that Amenth had summoned, because he's one of those demons. When you look at this, Apocalypse was on one side, the first Horsemen were on the other, including his wife. So she then went off. They went and they created the 10 towers. We'd already seen this stuff in the Powers of 10, but it's explained better here. Powers of 10, issue 4 again. So they created the 10 towers to help protect them, but Genesis went out with a whole retinue of the best soldiers to make sure that these guys didn't come after them and destroy those towers. They couldn't get anywhere near those towers. So they went and they started effing these guys up. All of this stuff, mind you, is supposed to be referenced to the tarot decks. I actually used to use the tarot decks back in the day. I used to actually, instead of like the Llewellyns, I actually used the deck of Thoth back in the day. That was Aleister Crowley's deck, the deck that he actually created while he was in the, did he create it in the Temple of Dawn? I think he might have done it when he was in the, I think he did it after the Golden Dawn. I think this is one of the first things he did when he joined, or when he created the Ordo Templi Orientis. Anyway, all of this stuff matters. All of this magical talk actually matters if you're watching what's actually happening in the Excalibur books, right? Even though I'm not a fan of the writing and the presentation of it, the story is obviously extremely crucial to the 10 of Swords stuff that's coming up, right? So 10 of Swords is also a tarot deck. The Tower, also a deck, a card in the deck. So these guys go forth and they start trying to fight against the armies of Amenth. And they're whooping ass. They're taking names. But then they come across somebody. First appearance again in this book. First off, we see, boom, these guys hanging out. First appearance right here. Again, Marvel Comics issue number 1000. But we see the birth of Summoner. Using these magics, these long lost magics, in order to fight back against these demons. So they come across, what's his name? Yes, they come across Purity, the white sword. Here's his tower. Here's him. First appearance, if I'm remembering correctly, if I'm looking at this correctly. First appearance. This cat right here, he is a mutant. Something we kind of have to go back on a little bit. Psychopath Hickman, he made sure to call this the modern age. This is something that I caught on, but I kind of dismissed back when this was first opening up. Because when he was making this, I don't know if he knew that Marvel was getting their hands on the Conan properties again. This is where all of your Marvel Comics lore is going to come into play. If you ever read the original Doctor Strange books, the original series for the Doctor Strange and Doctor Strange Sorcerer Supreme, where they would have the Book of the Vishanti in the back of those, where they would actually go into the history of some of these characters, the modern age is today, modern Earth 616. But when they had the license for all of this stuff, for the Conan stories and a lot of the other stories back in the day, Marvel was full of licenses. They had the Conan properties from the Robert E. Howard collection. What Rob Thomas from Matchbox 20. No, what Roy Thomas did back then, along with a couple others, they indelibly incorporated the history of Conan and therefore Cthulhu, the Lovecraftian Cthulian mythos, into the Marvel Universe. You see, not only is Thomas a historian of comics, but he's read everything that Robert E. Howard and others have put out about Conan, and he's also read everything that Lovecraft and others have put out about the Cthulian mythos. So in the Weird Tales comics, I've talked about this before, but not here, because it never mattered. When the Weird Tales pulp magazines used to come out, and that's where those short stories by Lovecraft originally started coming out, Robert E. Howard fell in love with those. I just found out a couple weeks ago that there was a movie with not Orson Welles, the guy who plays Vincent D'Onofrio, the guy who plays the Kingpin in the Daredevil series on Netflix. He actually played Robert E. Howard, which is excellent because he's a huge mother fathead, right? So, what do you call it? Anyway, he used to read those pulp magazines, Weird Tales, and he's just like, holy crap, these are amazing. I want to do something too. So he started doing the Call the Conqueror stories, and he made it so that it's like, first there's the Lovecraft mythos that ties to the modern day. But what if there was something in between? What if there was a generation after a cataclysm, right? The first original cataclysm that sealed away most of these beasts. What do you call it? I'm going to get to those, and I'm going to look at this, and I'm going to say, hey, what if there was, after that first cataclysm, there was another cataclysm, but in between there was this. So he did the Call the Conqueror stuff. Then he got rejected on one of the Cull scripts, so he turned that into the Phoenix on the Sword, which was the first Conan story. You could clearly see that it was a bite off of his Cull story, the Robert E. Howard, his Cull story. So that's when he created Conan. He's like, you're going to reject one of my scripts because it doesn't, fit with continuity in your opinion. Fine, I'm just going to make it a different continuity. So he rewrites it completely and says, oh, look, it's actually Conan. So Conan started as a king, the king of Aquilonia, as opposed to the king of Volusia, which was boom, which means that once he did that, he had to explain it. And he explained it by saying, well, there was the other cataclysm. So there was the elder demons, and then there was the cataclysm. Some of those demons were left over, and boom, here's the Cull stories, right? After the sinking of Atlantis. But then all of a sudden, there was another cataclysm. And while originally I said that was the current, Earth, no, this was actually the Hyborian Age. So there's Conan there. And then there's another cataclysm. And boom, that's when you get the modern age. Roy Thomas looked at all this as like, I could incorporate all this into the Marvel Universe. And they loved it. We loved it. They loved it. Everybody loved it. So that is the history of the Marvel Universe. It couldn't be referenced anymore when Marvel didn't have the licensure for the Robert E. Howard properties. But now that it's back, all of that history is back. So when we saw and hear back in Powers of 10 issue number 4, that he talks about the modern age, but the first horsemen were from a previous age. Here it's reinforced still, which makes me think this guy went nuts on this. The second wave, we talk about the second wave of mutants, of which Apocalypse was the first, and he sired all these generations. Again, there were other first mutants. Namor was a first mutant also, but in the modern age, it would be looked at. So this would be what, the third generation of mutants? Apocalypse was the second generation of mutants. What was the first generation of mutants? I'm going to go on a limb here and suggest that it may have been the Deviants. Hey, we got the Eternals story movie coming up pretty soon, right? And the Eternals comic book with 6,002 covers, I'm guessing, but I think it's about 6,002 covers, right? Anyway, boom. So we've got all that stuff coming up. So I'm presuming, because technically the Deviants are the first mutation created by the Celestials. Apocalypse uses celestial technology. It's been explained since the very beginning, the origin of Apocalypse, right? The first stories back by Louis Simonson. So I'm going to say it's all connected and it's beautiful. So here's something else that could potentially connect to the current world. This guy here, Purity, the White Tower, the White Sword, excuse me, the White Sword. He comes along. Now, I also want to think about this for a second. He's called Purity. Doesn't this sound like an antithesis to the four horsemen of Apocalypse, right? There's war, famine, pestilence, and war and death, right? There's those four. If you look in the book of Revelations in the Bible, what do you call it? Those are the four plagues sent in the form of horsemen, right? They're visible in the form of riders on horses. But what if there were four horsemen of purity, so to speak, right? What if there were? What if we're adding to that story also? Because I would be completely down for that. Some of the best stories you're ever going to find are in the Bible. You know what I'm saying? Some of the best stories you're going to find nowadays are representations of what we've already seen in the Bible. Crap, now my glasses are smudged. So anyway, but that's just theoretical. Something else that's theoretical on my part. And the smudge is gone. Yay. Something else that's theoretical on my part is this guy. They just said in here that this guy Purity, the White Sword, he used to be an ally. He is one of the mutants, which means it appears as though he came from Apocalypse also, right? Look at him. He looks like he could have come from him. Could he be his, I don't know, brother? Wouldn't really work if he was the first. Maybe he could be the younger brother of Apocalypse. You know what I'm saying? So first mutant, but hey, this guy's also mutant. I don't know. Anyway, he looks like Apocalypse, close enough, but a younger version of him. Now, what if, uh, anyway, so all that speculation aside, the idea is that you have this dude and he's been resurrected and he's done resurrection so many times that suddenly this resurrection process became a religion for him. It became his religion. Two things about that. We're in a current resurrection process right now, cycle of resurrection right now in the modern Earth 616 on Krakoa, right? Because, hey, look, death is meaningless nowadays. Well, what if the meaninglessness of death becomes its own religion? Hey, here's the second thing I was going to talk about. Who's the other guy who was talking about making mutants into a religion? And that would be Nightcrawler. You know how Hickman likes to drop little things once in a while and they seem innocuous. They seem like, who cares? And then all of the sudden, it was the OTO. Thank you, Raven. It's meaningless to humans also. So the idea that he actually goes and he mentions, yeah, exactly, an apocalypse ancestor aggressively relaxed, and that's what I was thinking is maybe it's one of his sons also. So it would be an uncle of the summoner. Anyway, so Nightcrawler was talking about making this into religion. What if Nightcrawler wound up becoming the leader of this new religion and he winds up becoming a messiah of sorts? Because he doesn't really want to be a god figure, but this guy kind of is. What if Nightcrawler looked at this guy as actually a part of that? I know that we've already got the Marduk Curios stuff going on, the freaking what the heck is that guy's name? Asrael. We've got Asrael as the father of this guy, and Asrael is technically one of the Hell Lords and whatnot. But what if things were to be changed up but just a little tiny bit? And it turned out that this betrayer, because he's technically a betrayer, like not intentionally, but the recycling of life and death, whatever, became a religion to him. So he went crazy, basically. What if, since he turned and went against his own people, what if it turned out that he decided to not necessarily side with Amenth, right? Yeah, Amenth, the guy who led all these demons. But if instead he said, "Yeah, how about this? I'll marry one of your daughters, one of your daemon daughters, and then we'll have a peace treaty," because that's often how kings and queens work, right? So now what if we find out that's actually somehow the way that this guy, the way that Nightcrawler was sired? Maybe it is still through Asrael. I don't know. But wouldn't that be interesting? I'm saying, I'm putting that out there. I'm leaving it there. Okay, let's move on a little bit. So now we get to who is actually called the betrayer here. The traitor, Isca. First appearance. We don't know who this person is per se. Her mutant power is that she can't lose. That's interesting. That's a little interesting to me. The smudge is still there, damn it. It's really frustrating. That's interesting that her mutant power is that she can't lose. I dig on that. I do. But it's weird that if her mutant power is that she can't lose, Hickman kind of looks at it in a new way where it's like she has to join the other side because that's the side that's going to win. And she can't lose. But it's her mutant power that she can't lose. Well, that seems kind of weird. It's like if it's your power that you can't lose, and that means that anybody who sides with you is going to win. But maybe winning battles is not the same as winning wars. Maybe that's what that means. Because for the most part, Genesis won every single battle they went up against until Purity, the White Sword, suddenly went crazy. And this is generation after generation after generation. So when they were left with only 100 warriors, those 100 warriors kept going back and fighting until the last man. Maybe she should have gone back for reinforcements. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. Anyway, why would there be a shout out in the Maestro comics for Comic Book University? Oh, what? Oh, in what? Oh, in your letters column, I actually saw it. Yeah, that'd be cool. I wouldn't complain. I'll take a look. I'll take a look. So anyway, we go on and we just see the demons, the daemons. They came back and they destroyed the towers. Uh, boom! All of this crazy stuff, man. All of this crazy stuff. So here is the gate. Here's the gate that's going to go back, and so Apocalypse. I don't know if he's satisfied with Summoner's answers, and we get the white pages here. All of this stuff is just a rehash of stuff that we already knew. This is just really rewordings of everything that we already knew, from my understanding. The nah. So he sends him back through the gate. By sending him back through the gate, you go back to your people. If they're not there, come right back. But if they are there, tell them I'm coming. I now just have to rally my X-Men. Now, is that going to be the Ten of Swords thing? I think that's going to be the Ten of Swords event. Unfortunately, I don't see that symbol over here that I do see. Well, I don't see it here, but that I do see in the Excalibur 12 book and some of the other books where it's on the side of the front cover and it'll be like, oh, this is part of this is one of the roads to or the preludes to the Ten of Swords. I don't see that. But nonetheless, what I am seeing is that this is leading to something. Are they going to do the Ten of Swords stuff first and then go over there? I don't know. Or maybe this is going to be that actual lead up. So is this just putting the Summoner on hiatus until the Ten of Swords stuff is over? And then we're going to start working towards that? It could be. It could be. Or it could be this. I honestly don't know. I couldn't tell you for certain either way. I don't actually work for Marvel. I'm just guessing, speculating on all this stuff. Nice, Second Street. Okay, I'm going to check that out. That's actually really interesting. It was all put together there. The crystal anus. It does kind of look like a crystalline great pit of Krakoon, right? And there's the Sarlacc in the middle, the crystalline Sarlacc. Look, is that Boba Fett's Rising Phoenix? Get out of town. I'm joking. Anyway, so he says, wait, and Banshee and Unis the Untouchable are going to go with you. That's actually pretty cool. Now, I wonder how this is going to work specifically. Remember, they both have their weaknesses. Banshee is one of the most powerful freaking hit people in the world. He screams, whatever he's facing dies. Like he could destroy and shatter, rock anything pretty much imaginable, right? And Unis hasn't ever made the shield go. I don't think he's ever made his force field go underneath him. So they're both ridiculously powerful mutants who do have weaknesses, or at least kinks in their armor, flaws in what they are. Banshee, glass cannon. And if something comes up behind him, what are you going to do? And if something comes underneath Unis, maybe this is just me reading into this too much. I'm okay with that. That's what I do. I don't just read, I read into. But anyway, he's sending them with Summoner. Wicked. Wicked. So we're going to find out what happens then. And it's also taking 2 players off the table for now. So he says, "You have my word, grandfather. This I promise, that he will obey what he says. The problem is, look at the somber face on Apocalypse." And this is the final page. That. Yes, he's actually one of the original, well, not one of the original Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. He's actually in the second incarnation. I think his first appearance was in issue 5, 6, or 7 of the original X-Men series OG. Anyway, boom. That somber face. He knows something. He knows something. And Summoner, for as awesome as he is still very young. So he doesn't know what's coming up. This is something else. This book is something else. Let's get to look into some of these parts here. Isca and Longshot need to play poker. Maybe throw Domino in there too. Oh, definitely. Definitely. Not just Longshot, throw in Shamrock. You know what I'm saying? Throw in everybody in that, man. Have them all and see who's going to actually win. Because I'm sending a letter. This isn't a rehash. It's a different set of summoners. The numbers are different. Hold on, Lewis Scott. What numbers are different? Yeah, well, I hear you. If the numbers is kind of innocuous. There's still the 3 summoners, so those numbers are the same. But are you referring to the amount of people that there actually still are? Well, that's the thing. It seems like the information was, for the most part, updated. Like I said, it's a rehash of what we've already seen. The numbers are different. I get it. Like I said, originally, the summoner, there was only one level summoner 3, and that was the summoner. And there were supposed to be 3. In this one, it says that there are 2. So who's the first summoner? This is something that I mentioned in the beginning of the thing. It's not a big deal, but in general, yeah, I did mention that. This is still nonetheless a rehash of what's already there. Kind of it's a number file update. You know what I'm saying? So it only really leads to more questions. Well, then who's the other summoner level 3? Because the other summoners could be powerful compared, depending on which mutant goes in there. Who has to deal with who. But yeah, this it is for the most part just for me, my terminology. It's a rehash. Black Bolt can destroy can destroy cities with a whisper. Actually, he can only destroy one city with a whisper. But yes, you are completely correct on that. Yeah, I'm not saying that Banshee, Sean Cassidy, is more powerful than the king of the Inhumans. I'm not saying that at all. What I am saying is he's ridiculously powerful. So notice the librarian had similar variations of the summoner symbols on his face. The librarian, was the librarian in here? Or are you talking about the librarian from, because I'm right away thinking of back in the Thor books. Oh. Boom, boom, boom. Yeah, arrest. I wonder if you're actually talking about back then. I'm not sure. Where do they have the librarian in this? That's why we need complete answers or questions, complete statements. Yeah, I don't see it in here. The powers of 10 librarian. Okay, yeah, back then. Yeah, because the chronicling everything, they would have to have all of that stuff on the face. It even re-mentions in here, if you have these things, these are things that will be displayed. They will not be, the ranks will not be explained through either words or through, what did they say? It was in the white pages there. It's only going to be by the symbol that you have to wear. It didn't say you have to wear it on your chest. You know what I'm saying? But a librarian, a chronicler, would have to have all of these. That particular one, at the very least. How could any of these things be taught if they couldn't, if there wasn't somebody to teach them. Because yeah, mind you, it's not just the idea that, like, the mutant power was boom, but the learned stuff is, the summoning. That's the main thing. And mind you, they're summoning daemons, which are the enemy, right? Back then, those were the enemies. This was a magic that was long since kept. Now, the closest that we have to this in the modern universe, the modern 616, is magic. Ilyana Rasputin, who learned her. So mind you, Ilyana's power, and she also has a sword, the soul sword, her soul. Her powers, actually, her mutant power is only that she can control those stepping discs that would always appear in limbo randomly. All of, like, nobody, not even Belasco, was able to figure out how he was able to figure out by timing how they would work, but he had no control over them. He simply had to get his timing right. But he taught her magic. So all that magic power that magic with a K has, that comes from learning this stuff. So very similar to the summoner, right? They learned how to summon all these things. So all this stuff had to be taught, and there has to be a librarian, a chronicler, who has all of this knowledge in order to teach. And summoner was just simply, he had the ability, he knew how to come all the way through. This actually also refers back to the magical world. Again, outside of the Llewellyn's magic. If anybody's not familiar why I make fun of that or what that is in the first place, back when I was younger, there was this company called Llewellyn that used to put out magical books all the time. They were exploitative, they were silly, they didn't even have any real philosophy in them. They just put out, like, here's gypsy magic, here's Norse magic, here's this magic, here's that magic, and it had nothing to do with anything. It was just people talking crap. Meanwhile, the idea of actual magic, mind you, is just a philosophy. It's just a philosophy. That's all it is. So let me explain what magic in the real world is, oftentimes called thaumaturgy or thaumaturgical studies. Aleister Crowley, Israel Regardie, all of these people, they would talk about how the idea that there's black magic and white magic. Black magic is where you're trying to cause effects to happen to other people, right? You could be trying to, anything where you're trying to do to other people. So it could be something to the effect of trying to curse that person, give them bad luck, saying anything along those lines, usually based off of superstitions, but there are ways to do it. And this is stuff that has existed in our society forever. You know what I'm saying? Protect yourself from the evil eye, give the evil eye, right? That's the way that works. Of course, there was also more than that to it. But that's doing anything to other people. That includes healing. So if you try to heal someone else, like, oh, I'm going to lay my hands on you. So this still stems back to religion as well, right? Whether it's evangelical or Catholic, whatever you're going to look at. All of this stuff, trying to exorcise someone, performing an exorcism. This is all considered black magic. White magic is only one thing. So black magic isn't necessarily evil. They look at it, it says black, it must be evil. No, it just means doing things to other people, either for good or for bad. This is the philosophy, the religion, so to speak, of magic. That's why they put a K at the end, just like the way that magic is spelled. Anyway, white magic was always supposed to be the philosophy of keep on trying to scry. Always try and learn how to read palms, learn how to scry by, like, reading tea leaves, or look at a rock. You could pick up a rock. If you learn how to do this stuff, you could actually pick up a rock and find numbers in a rock. If you wanted to, you could technically find runes, like Futhark runes, in rocks, or you can make your own runes. That's, of course, the knowledge that came from the Well of Mimir that Odin sacrificed his eye for. The idea that you would scry all of these things in order to decipher certain things, so eventually you could learn what John Dee, D-E-E is how his name is pronounced. You could eventually learn the ancient angelic language of Enochian. It's CH, but it's Enochian, not Enochian. It's so the Enochian language. What this does is, this is the language of the angels. So he would scry, and he would always scry what's called he would scry a crystal. That's where the idea of a crystal ball came from. actually it's been observed that he had a pyramid shaped thing. So not a cone, a pyramidal shape, a trapezoid. Basically, it was three-sided if it was only one-dimensional, but it was multi-dimensional. So it was more than just a pyramid. It was a trapezoid. He would actually scry into this, and he was able to eventually learn the Enochian language, right? So this means that he was able to now communicate right back and forth the language of the angels. This helped him to slowly start trying to communicate with his own personal holy guardian angel. This is the same stuff that Aleister Crowley would talk about. If you do find that, I noticed like four people just jumped off of this. If this seems blasphemous to you, a lot of this stuff is also in Catholicism. It's also in a lot of, but it's changed, right? Catholicism took a lot of pagan rituals and incorporated into their own. Anyway, this does matter. This does matter for here because clearly there's a reason why Hickman chose Teenie Howard to do this stuff, because he knows that Teenie Howard knows the magical world, which is why I said, even though I don't like the way that she writes, like these two things, they just, like, her writing doesn't gel well with my view of how comic books are supposed to be done, right? Maybe I'm just the Jim Cornette of comic books at this point. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? But so I've got nothing against Teenie Howard, and I think it was a good enough choice picking her because she already comes with I imagine she already comes with the preordained magic. I think she's a Wiccan, which would make sense. But anyway, whatever she is, she practices. She is a witch. That's her religion, witchcraft. You know what I'm saying? Is some form of witchcraft is her religion. So that's why he chose her from my observations to co-write the the X of Swords stuff, specifically where all that stuff is leading up from. That's the Excalibur books. Now, by trying to communicate with your holy guardian angel, in magic, they believe in the resurrection, the constant resurrection, much like the Hindu mythology, religion, however you want to look at it, because the Hindus have both. They have their current religion. They also have the mythologies. There are books that they don't accept anymore. But anyway, if you look at these books and you see all of the stuff that they have, there's the constant reincarnation cycle, and what do you call it? When you're constantly reincarnated, your soul is basically being recycled into different bodies. There is one guardian angel. Again, this is in religion also. You have a guardian angel with you. What is your guardian angel? It's an angel that's assigned to you for your whole entire life, right? The idea of the angel on your right and the angel on your left, or the angel on your right and the devil on your left. The angel on your right would be one thing, the devil on your left would be another thing, but the guardian angel doesn't interfere. It simply records everything that you do, so that when you go back to, when you die and we all go and face God, do we go to heaven or hell? The guardian angel is the one who wrote all of this stuff down. And this is the book that's used against you or for you. This also ties into Islam, right? You go in and once you're reincarnated, once you're resurrected, and the sun is only like the sun is so hot, it's as though it was within a mile of the earth, right? As if, because that's not actually what the sun is. But anyway, like it's super hot. The only shade is the throne of Allah. And when you reform in the same way that you died. So if you died being shot, you wake up in the middle of your scream. If you died peacefully in your bed, you wake up like, I got crusties in my eye. But we all wake up completely naked. And with us is a book. If the book is in our right hand, it's good for us. If the book is in our left hand, it's bad for us. If the book is chained to our neck and we have to drag it to get to where we have to go, because there's going to be a big fire that we have to go towards, that's where everything's going to be. That's where the judgment's going to happen. And judgment doesn't start until everybody is there. If you're dragging that book, yo ass is grass. So yeah, that, like, all of this stuff, all the religions really tie into each other. If Rich Silva was here, he'd be right into the thieves of Summoner, and he'd be right. You know, so in some regard, he'd be right. But anyway, so all this stuff ties into each other. So the idea of a holy guardian angel, what this angel does, it just chronicles everything that you do, good or bad. It doesn't matter. You know what I'm saying? So knows if you're sleeping, it knows if you're awake. Yeah, all of that stuff. We can make it humorous if you want. But if you speak the language of the angels, you can read from that book. Think about that. This is your way to now scry and read your own account, but not just of this life and the things that you remember and the things that you've forgotten. But this holy guardian angel is assigned to you throughout all of your rebirth cycles. So you can see all of your pasts. Now we can break into the Dune movie that's coming up, and more specifically, Frank Herbert's book, the original Dune book, the source of where the movies are coming from. Paul Muad'Dib Atreides was the master of time and space in the form of he could see the future. He could be in the past, the present, and the future all at once, right? He could see the future. He could see the chronicle that's going to be written, but it's, again, since it's out of time, what does that mean going to? It's his future, but outside of time. This stuff has already been written. The pen is lifted, the ink is dried, right? But he can also see his past. So he can therefore see everything. He can learn from all those past experiences. He can figure out where he went wrong in everything he's doing. Likewise, if you can communicate with your holy guardian angel, you can read that chronicle, past and present, and try and make it so that there is no future, so that you don't have to be reincarnated anymore. Or you can use all of this knowledge. Think about Hawkman in the DC comics, right? All of this stuff together, and then boom, all of a sudden, like imagine that knowledge is power, right? Knowledge is power. So bang. It could be for good or for bad, because you could technically read this stuff. You could read this stuff and then see, oh, this person in another lifetime bothered me, and this is an ancestor of that person. I'm going to get revenge by hurting that person. Like, you never know, you can become a tyrant that way. Who knows, which would kind of make you crazy. You're hearing voices. You're Malkavian if you're following the World of Darkness world. Anyway, there's so much involved in that, and I see so much of that in these books that, like I said, in my opinion, I 99% believe that extra 1% is Hickman saying, yes, this is why this is why I wanted Teenie Howard to do this stuff. But I 99% believe that this is the reason why Teenie Howard was tapped to do this. Anyway, boom. This is amazing stuff. I'm surprised that Brian Hill wasn't tapped to do more. I know that he knows about this stuff. I don't know if I know he doesn't necessarily practice this stuff, but I'm really surprised that Mr. Brian Edward Hill wasn't tapped for more, because they know each other. They go way back. He did do the new version of Quanon. But anyway, this is in general. I'm saying, how long was I talking? I was talking for more than an hour now on this. So hopefully you guys got something good out of this. Let me also check what's on here. I'm pretty sure we have to watch The Witch, Burn the Witch Bill now. Oh, of course. Well, first see if I float. First see if I float. If I float, then burn me. If not, just drown me. I mean, Salem witch trials there. Professor Bill looking like sexy Jor-El. Hey, I'm liking it. Comics quirks with Jimmy. Comic quirks with Jimmy. Sorry, not that many pluralizations there. Just jumped back. Much have gotten a bunch of witches and wizards. It's Jim Cornette's birthday today. Get the hell out of town. Oh, that's awesome. That is awesome. Zedkiel, Archangel of Magic and Justice. Yes, in the the Old Testament. What is he called in Islam? I used to know this. I know this. Anyway, this is the person who, in the Quran, it says that he came to Solomon and he said, "I want you guys to know this is only a test. This is not something you guys should practice. I'm giving you this only as a test. Allah sent this down as a test. I'm simply the messenger to deliver this as a test. If you practice this stuff, it's your ass." So, boom. Anyway, and that was when magic was introduced to the world during the time of Solomon, or in Islam, Suleiman, in Arabic, I should say specifically. When you get reincarnated, you'll get to choose your gender and keep your memories. Yes, that's actually a part of it also. And that's important. That really is important, because if you think about it, the cycle, the reincarnation cycle of life and death for the Hindus is that there are the four main classes. The fifth, the untouchables, is a fifth subclass, but still a subclass. Anyway, there's like, the Kshatriyas, and also until you get to the Brahmin. And if you're a Brahmin, then you get to go on to the next life, but only if you're a male. If you're a female Brahmin, it was like, oh, close, but no cigar. Now, if you do really good in this life, or if you do good in this life, you can come back as a male Brahmin. And then if you do good in that life, you can go on to nirvana. But if you do really, really, really good, you could skip over several stages. And if you do bad, you can actually go back. And what do I mean by good and bad? It doesn't necessarily mean good or evil in that sense. It's more like your dharma. So what kind of karma are you generating? Good karma, bad karma? It's based on your dharma, what you're meant for by the class that you were born into. You know what I'm saying? So all of this, to me, like all of this stuff is just really amazing to me. You pick your gender if you slip the guy a 20. Aggressively relaxing, going extra today. That is freaking hysterical. Professor, giving up game. I'm giving up game? I'm telling the secrets? You still have to do the studying. You still have to sit down and actually learn learn how to scry. If anybody wants advice on how to scry, instead of staring at it for too long, that's when things become blurry. Close your eyes. Have it right in front of you. Like, open your eyes, look at it, make sure it's a proper focus for you, that you're good, and then close your eyes for a couple seconds, and then immediately open your eyes. Because when you first open your eyes and you're not focused, that's when all of a sudden you see a lot of the stuff. Oh, also, one of the two reasons why I went into this is because there are 3 levels of summoner. Hey, do you know that in the magical thaumaturgical world, there are 3 different levels of mage, right? There's people who don't have a single ability at what they want to do. They have no chance whatsoever. Like, everything that they want to do is going to be mostly charlatan stuff. Like, they can have an understanding of magic, but they're just not built for it. They don't have the midichlorians for it, so to speak. You know what I'm saying? But some people are genetically made for it, and they'll actually have an X in their hand. If you learn how to scry or read palms, or scry your palm, then you could actually see, and they're all right in here. So, oh, for Christ's sake, they're all right in here. That's where you would find them. So in between the cuffs up here and everything that's down there, you'd actually be able to see an X somewhere in the palm of your hand. It's just the way that the crinkles of your flesh go. You'd actually be able to see an X in there. That means, oh, you've got, higher midichlorians. Screw midichlorians. But anyway, you come from a family of witches that has actually practiced this stuff before, or more specifically, in your past, you have studied this stuff before. If there are no X's, you're essentially considered a new soul. You never studied this stuff before. You never tried. There's nothing helping you to boost you. You know what I'm saying? There's nothing there. But if there's an X there, oh, you got a better chance. There's actually a total of 3 X's. The more X's you have, the cooler you could potentially be. You know what I'm saying? For anybody asking, yeah, I actually have 1, 2, 3 X's right there. So technically, I have the best chance of, if I actually practice this sort of stuff still, currently. Anyway, by having 3 X's, it means that you're just like, holy crap, you've definitely done this stuff before, which would probably explain why looking into thaumatological studies was always so interesting and easy for me if we were to follow that methodology, that idea before. It might also explain why I was always so religious my entire life, always on a quest for God. Like, a lot of these things could be explained that way, for good or for bad. Anyhow, so this is very similar to the summoner levels, right? 1, 2, or 3 summoner levels, or you're just not a summoner at all. All of this stuff, when you see the root of where he's going to, and this is just like in the early, the Hoxpox stuff, the Dawn of X Powers of 10 books, the original, stuff that Hickman was putting out for the X-verse. I had to really look into the sciences for that. I'm only a former electrical engineer, so my knowledge on physics is still there, but it's very limited. I'm not a physicist, so it did take a bit of, crap. Let me refresh myself on this. Oh, this is something I never knew. Let me actually research this. Dude, when Hickman gets into this stuff, he's Mark Wade level of research, saying finding his stuff. But anyway, boom, there's all that good stuff. Haven't been reading Excalibur. Does the Quiet Council know what Apocalypse is planning? For the most part, no, they do not. In fact, in this book, he mentions, I've got to rally the X-Men now. So go in, do what you're doing. Now I've got to rally the mutants, saying the modern day mutants. Now I've got to rally them. So it's funny. It's like the only reason why he created these mutants in the first place, sired all of them, was to go back and try and save, or at least get revenge on, what happened in the past. So mind you, Apocalypse is going back, whether the second wave or the pre-wave of mutants, so that's the second wave of mutants ever came about. Saying he's going back regardless. So, and I guess that would have been in what's considered the first Cataclysm Day stuff, because the original Cataclysm, if we're going by the Deviants theory, the Deviants are the first mutants, the original mutants created by the not the Sentinels, that's different, the Celestials, right? But the first wave, or the second wave of mutants, the ones that are talked about here from Arako, these would be the ones that Apocalypse was the first of those mutants. Again, Namor would be the modern. So if we were to do it that way, that would mean that Namor is technically the fourth. So who would be the third wave of mutants? I think that there was another person. If anybody remembers in the comments section, wasn't there another person who was considered the first of the mutants? Because I remember it without remembering I remember the idea. I remember the concept without remembering the actual person. Wasn't there another person who was considered, he was a mutant, but nobody before him was a mutant? All the other mutants, like modern mutants and whatnot, like, I don't know. I'm trying to remember that. It's like the Avatar TV shows. And my wife and kids watched more of those than I did. But yeah, like Moira. Um, Again, very short answer. I don't remember. I don't know what that means. Like Moira. I learned from your videos. Then all the YouTubers combined. Thank you, HVAC. Your videos are fire and knowledgeable. Keep up the great work. Will do. Thank you very much. Lord Chuckles, I've been reading Excalibur. Just said that. So yeah, they don't know, or at least he hasn't informed them. Do they know something? Professor X is willing to read some people's minds without their permission. Magneto isn't stupid, and what's his name? Mr. Sinister, he seems to know everything. You know what I'm saying? So there's a chance that some people know, but yeah. I'm I'm the chosen one. You're supposed to love the new trilogy. Okay. That's enough. Palm reading, left or right palm. Doesn't actually matter. It doesn't actually matter which palm you read. They would both give pretty much the same exact story. So there's like your lifeline, your generations line, how many kids you're gonna have, or the ticks in that one line. I was Viking in a past life. Nice. What's up, Professor? What's up, Reno Noir? Spoilers. I gave you warn. Selene. Yes, Selene. Thank you. So Selene would have probably been the Hyborian age. Dude, Martin P. Freaking awesome. Selene would have been, and Alejandro following up really quickly afterwards, I see. So I imagine we can presume that we've got the deviants before the first, in the dawn of the creation of everything, boom, 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 whatever. And then once the Demogorge came along, Atum, the god behind the sun, who is in the sun right now, the current Egyptian Atum, he was what do you call it? When he destroyed all of those, and then he shed, like, his dandruff, his skin flakes, his eczema, so to speak, would have turned into the Hell Lords, like Mephisto and Demogorgon and all those guys and whatnot. Not Demogorgon, Satanish and all those. What do you call it? That would have led to that would have been when Selene was actually born, so to speak. Later on, it would be oh god, I just gave it. just freaking gave. Oh no, that would have been when Apocalypse was there. Then the Hyborian Age, when most of that was after the second Cataclysm. That would have been Selene. I'm sure they can easily do that in the history. And then modern day would be Namor, the first wave of mutants. So yeah, all of that stuff, dude. Love, love, love the idea of that. Again, that's just headcanon right there, but anyway, Reno bought physical copy of Dawn of X book since Hoxpox Excalibur is the worst so far. Agreed, but it's still good to me. Well, yeah, to me it's not good, but it's informative. That proto mutant guy, um, Scott Fitzgerald, you're onto something. I know you are. I just can't put it into words. Apparently, you can't either. Alejandro, yes, thank you. Thoughts on the Enter the Phoenix event? I'm not a fan of anything that Jason Aaron is doing. I'm just not. Even some of the things that he's done in the past, I've talked about it. I'm just not into it. And I can see how that phases into this conversation because of the Namor reference. What's up, Evan? Hello, Professor and Jerry Chan. Thank you, SoFlo Entertainment. Okay, so I'm going to wrap that up. I think that's it. That's the comments section. So I'll talk to all you guys later. Hey, throw a like up or 12 on here. It would help get this out, and then maybe the channel will become bigger, maybe more people to watch ads, and actually keep the channel, because I just started school again. I haven't done school since 2010. 2010 is when I graduated with my bachelor's in business with a specialty in marketing, and I haven't really done school since. Actually, that's also when I finished my my postgraduate English as a second, teaching English as a second language, or as a foreign language specifically, which is the job that I did do up until recently. I had to quit that job because what do you call it? I'm doing school right now, and the school takes place, it's all online, but still it takes place during the exact same time that I would have been teaching. So I couldn't possibly do both. What do you call it? Believe me, I would have quit Comic Book University instead. As opposed to getting income coming into the house, I would have just said, I'm going to just cut Comic Book University, because this Comic Book University essentially pays for my comics. That's really all it does. You know what I'm saying? So it doesn't give me a whole lot of other income. So, but I'm keeping Comic Book University because it doesn't interfere with the schooling. But the school is, it's another postgraduate, so it's technically another master's equivalency. Still not interested in going for my doctorates, but one of these days, who knows? Anyway, it is really intensive. It's going to be an entire 2 years worth of schooling crammed down into 8 short months. So it's one of those, like, my grades, they look back on my grades like, I don't care what you've been doing lately. I want to see your grades. And like, okay, your grades are good enough. I think you can handle an intensive course. And even then I'm doing this, I'm like, oh my God, this is really intense. So it's a lot of work. So it is taking a little bit longer for books to come out and whatnot. But yeah, again, more people are watching the videos, more people are liking the videos, more people are letting, even if you're not watching, you don't have to watch the ads. Open an ad up in another window, for crying out loud. Just let the original ad play. That and Patreon and PayPal are the only way that your favorite YouTubers actually get paid. Unless the channel can get bigger and I could put little, ads on there also, get some, some more sponsors. I actually lost a sponsor recently because I haven't been able to get enough numbers up. So if you guys do find quality in what I do, thank you. Please, even if you're not sharing the video, I understand, whatever, but definitely give a like and maybe do a comment, not just in the comment section, but in the chat section here. Actually, it's on this side for me. But actually, do a comment on the video itself, like, all the love or thank you or something that you said in here. It would really help to propagate the channel a little bit more. Who knows? Maybe I can actually get up there along neck and neck with Rob. I'd be happy to get neck and neck with freaking Cape Joel. You know what I'm saying? And that's closing in. But anyway, that's all I got. I love you guys. Comic Book University alumni. Talk to you all later. Like the video, I'm out. Professor Bill, Comic Book University. Class dismissed.